Friday, a football-less Friday, or that's what you thought. Evan and Tiki, we've got a ton to discuss. The New York Jets have an offensive coordinator. Shedeur Sanders is making it very, very obvious where he wants to go. And we will get into the Super Bowl. But before we get started, we believe in accountability here at WFAN. Accountability here at Evan and Tiki. So we made a little bit of a decoration change here at WFAN on this program. Because earlier today, Boomer Esiason, a man we all deeply respect, followed up on his tweet from last night claiming that today's the day Pete Alonso will sign with the New York Mets. Now, I love Boomer, but Boomer's track record on being correct is, I'd say, right around...
reporting it's the Admirals.
Right around 45%. He's had some victories. He's had some losses. That Admiral thing is a loss. But I do owe Boomer this. He was right about the lifting of the vaccine mandates a few years ago. And I remember saying, wow, Boomer was right. I love him. I'll never doubt him. Well, here we are 3 years later, and I am doubting him. But there's a chance Boomer's right. Boomer said Pete Alonso will be a Met today. Okay. So here's what we're doing. We have brought in Boomer Esiason. He's here with us right now. Now, it's not the real-life Boomer Esiason. It's a Friday. God bless him. It is a stand-up poster of a life-sized Boomer Esiason.
Extremely narpy.
It's right behind us, okay? Now, unfortunately, it's also attached to Phil Simms. No offense, Phil. We've covered Phil up with a luchador hat because this has nothing to do with Phil.
Right, we don't want him to catch any shrapnel.
No!
And Phil's also feeling Royal Rumble fever this week.
Yes, he's wearing a luchador hat like he's Rey Mysterio Jr. But around Boomer's neck is a clock. Because tick-tock, tick-tock. If Boomer is right and Pete Alonso re-signs with the New York Mets, there'll be a celebration. A celebration not just of Met fans, of me and Tommy, and Tiki will be happy too, but of Boomer Esiason, because he will have nailed it, and I would hug the life-size Boomer. I may do other things to the life-size Boomer, carry him around the studio in excitement. But if, by the close of business today at 5 o'clock, Pete Alonso does not re-sign with the New York Mets, that clock's coming off. And a big L is going around his neck. So while Boomer would never wear the L, he would never play along with a game as juvenile as that, he has no control over life-size Boomer. So at 5 o'clock today, if Alonso's not a Met, our beautiful L, designed by the Barber Girls, will be worn by Boomer for the final hour and a half of the show. Does that seem fair?
I think that's perfectly fair. You know, Boomer said this confidently last night, almost like he had talked to somebody.
Right.
Maybe, I don't know, Steve Cohen or something. Or maybe David Stearns, but that's John Heyman's job. So,
or maybe a drunk guy at a party. Who knows?
Exactly. Or maybe Pete Alonso himself.
Oh, you never know.
Because Pete Alonso, as we found out earlier this week, is back in New York.
Oh, yeah.
He was on a plane from Tampa back to New York.
That's
after
right.
Steve Cohen called him out at Amazing Day. And he could be here, and he could be chatting with Boomer.
That's right. It could be. And that's why I'm open-minded to this. I'm not saying Boomer's wrong. We're just putting a clock around his neck. And so, tick-tock, tick-tock. It is a little after 2 o'clock. I believe 5 o'clock, the close of business, is a very fair cutoff time. And if Pete Alonso does not re-sign with the New York Mets by 5 o'clock today, it's our own little way of holding people accountable. The L goes around Boomer Esiason's neck.
Can't even believe it.
So we will be checking the Boomer clock all day long today. You have any thoughts? You're welcome to join in at 888-808-1019. Now let's get down to business. Let's talk some football. I know we're a week away from the Super Bowl, but can I tell you what I'm most excited about?
Please, tell me.
Because I think everybody's different. I know there's a lot of Giant fans around here that are excited about rooting against the Eagles or rooting for Saquon or rooting against Saquon or what have you. To me, the reason I'm actually genuinely pumped up for this game in a week and a half is because Patrick Mahomes is chasing Tom Brady. And quite frankly, over the first 7 years of each of their careers, it's actually a mismatch. Like, Patrick Mahomes is far better than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
He's far better statistically. Mm-hmm. He's been far better in terms of winning. Right now, they both have 3 Super Bowls. Pat's been to 4. This could be the 4th he wins, or has been to 5 now.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm, kind of just enamored by is the chase for the GOATness. And Patrick Mahomes, 7 years into his career, is far ahead of that GOATness pace that was set by Tom Brady.
Well, it's also the expectation. So let's not forget when because he's now the GOAT, Tom Brady, the winningest quarterback in the history of the NFL as it pertains to Super Bowl. But nobody expected that. Right? When he took over because Drew Bledsoe got hurt, it was almost like, all right, who's this kid that's going to be just this stopgap until they figure out what they're doing at quarterback? And he just never gave the job back and kept winning and winning and winning. Now, to Tom Brady's credit, and really this is the most admirable thing about him, he got better every single year.
That's the caveat, yes.
Right. It's like, all right, okay, he was just throwing checkdowns and, handing the ball off and throwing it to tight ends. And all of a sudden, he throws for 50 touchdown passes in a year. And Randy Moss and him set a record. They go undefeated. And you started to believe, wow, this guy is actually the best player to ever play this position. And then he wins his 7th Super Bowl after going to Tampa and lifting that franchise that had been struggling ever since they won back in 2003. And so Tom Brady he made himself after a, good start winning, but not really good start skill position. You know what I mean? Skill-wise and talent-wise and numbers-wise. You didn't believe that Tom Brady was going to be that. The difference is Pat Mahomes, from day one of starting in his 2nd season, you just knew this guy is awesome.
Yeah.
Right, this might be the best talented quarterback we've ever seen. And then the winning started to come right after it, which was not surprising at all. He was meeting the expectation that his talent presented.
Absolutely. Look, there are thirds to the Tom Brady career. There's the first third, there's the second third, and then there's the final third. And obviously, Patrick Mahomes keeping that pace in year 15 or in year 17, it's a very tall order.
Right.
I'd be the first to admit it. But through the first 7 years, the first third of their careers, it's a mismatch. And you're right, Patrick Mahomes came in with more pressure. He was a first-round pick. Patrick Mahomes came into probably a better set situation. Think about it. He's nice and neatly replacing Alex Smith and doing it on a team that's been in the playoffs and year after year after year. While in the Patriots' case, they were coming off a bad season. Drew Bledsoe got hurt, and here's this kid who didn't have a lot of hype coming in, and obviously we all know what happened. I get all that. I'm just saying, through 7 years, you look at any stat you want. And I found it amazing. I was on Pro Football Reference, and I did one of those those comparisons that are always fun.
Yeah.
Where I took Mahomes and I took Brady. And I looked at these 7 years, because that's all you can judge with Patrick. He's only been in the league for 7 years. I can't look at year 12 yet. He hasn't had a year 12. And you look at the stat comparison of Mahomes versus Brady, every single one of them, whether it's wins, whether it's touchdowns, whether it's interceptions, whether it's rating, whatever it is, championships, Pro Bowls, anything you want. Mahomes hasn't beat everything.
Yeah.
So he is setting a pace right now, and I know it's going to be tough because it's a marathon. You run marathons, you know what it's like. You get tired by mile marker 12. And I know it's early. It's only mile marker 7. But right now, Patrick Mahomes is way ahead of the race on the GOAT race with Tom Brady, and I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, no, and he's got to continue to do it. And that's why for his personal legacy, even though I guess technically it is for the Chiefs as well, because as the dynasty of this generation, if they win 3 in a row, they'll have done something, and Coach Andy Reid as well will have done something that's never been done before.
That's right.
And it's one thing to catch the number of championships that a head coach, or in this case for Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady has eventually, to do something that's never been done, that's special. And so we could talk about Pat Mahomes all we want, but this is really a larger Chief and a Chief fandom issue that we're talking about, or at least opportunity. And so that's what makes it exciting, right? Even if you don't have a dog in the fight, you're likely going to watch history. And so that makes it awesome.
Look, everyone has their reasons for why they're going to care or maybe not care about the Super Bowl. To me, watching this kind of greatness is A, the reason to care, and B, the reason I'm rooting so hard for them. Because to me, it accomplishes so many things. Mahomes passing Tom Brady as a New Yorker, as a Jet fan, as someone who has no ill will towards Patrick Mahomes. In fact, if anything, I like him. His dad was a hell of a pitcher for the Mets in 1999. I appreciate that.
Right.
There's something cool about that. Andy Reid tracking down Bill Belichick, who told Jet fans, I'm resigning the HC of the NYJ. Yeah. Them doing something, like you mentioned, that no team's ever done, including the Patriots, in three-peating. And then for the Giant fan, where I'll help you out on this, besides rooting against Saquon, is you don't want the Eagles to be the dynasty stoppers. Like, there is something really unique and special. And if you don't agree with me about that, ask yourself a question. A part of winning the Super Bowl in 2007 that made it so special was not only winning the Super Bowl, not only seeing your team win a championship, not only seeing Eli Manning and all the greatness, but it was stopping them.
Right.
It was stopping the undefeated Patriots. It was the ultimate badge of honor that the team you root for stopped maybe the greatest team in NFL history. You stopped them. The importance of that game and that result cannot be even expressed in proper words. You cannot allow the Eagle fan to have that. And in a way, they would have that.
Right. No, they definitely would have that. Because the Kansas City Chiefs are a flawed team, right? They're not as prolific offensively as they once were. Tyreek Hill was on this team at one point, and he felt like he was unstoppable. Even when things would break down, Pat Mahomes would just throw it up in the middle of the field, and out of nowhere, Tyreek Hill would come zooming in and make a humongous play. Travis Kelce is a shell of who he was 4 years ago when he was the most dominant tight end, maybe pass catcher in football because of his size and his speed and his ability to make big plays happen. They don't have any of that right now. They have some young players. Xavier Worthy is a good young blazer. But when you look at the efficiency of their offense, it's nowhere near where it used to be. Yet somehow they keep finding ways to win. Part of that is because of Spags, but it's also because Pat Mahomes is just that it dude. Like, he's that it maker. Well, whatever needs to happen, he somehow has this extra sense to make it happen.
So I started watching football in about 1992. You started watching football in
probably 84.
1984. So look, I understand for our older listeners, I can't tell you how I would have felt about Johnny Unitas because we didn't see him play. We didn't watch Sid Luckman play or Sammy Bow play. But I can tell you right now, when you factor in stats, when you factor in winning, when you factor in doing things on the field that you've never seen before, through 7 years, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Right.
Like, that's where we are with him. When you factor all that stuff in, because here's the thing about Peyton Manning. When Peyton Manning was on the field early in his career, you're like, wow, this guy's unbelievable. They didn't win.
No.
I mean, and I'm not putting it all on him, but he did get shut out by the Jets at Giant Stadium in a playoff game. That happened.
Right. He also was very bad his first year.
3-13.
3-13 and threw, 20-something interceptions. And he was bad.
He was.
But it helped develop him and help him understand his limitations as a player. And then he thrived from there on out.
Through 7 years, because that's where we are, I don't think it's even close. He's the greatest quarterback most of us have ever seen. Now, I give you my time reference. It kind of starts in the early 90s. Even if you want to go back to the 80s, Dan Marino's certainly a good candidate for a lot of people. He put up some massive numbers early in his career. Never got back to a Super Bowl, but got to a Super Bowl. We're talking about a guy who, even though his numbers weren't amazing this year, Pat Mahomes, which I think is actually added to his impressiveness, has won every single year. He's already won MVPs. He's already won championships. He does stuff on the field we haven't seen before. Like, to me, he's the best I've ever seen. Now, the difference is careers are marathons. And what made Tom Brady the GOAT to many wasn't he was the best I've ever seen in the moment. It was, I can't believe he did it for as long as he did.
Yeah, that's the thing with Tom.
Absolutely. And that's going to be the challenge that we'll see if Mahomes gets there. We'll see if Mahomes wants it. Pat Mahomes may say to himself after year 15, why am I doing this?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. Tom Brady did it without being the highest paid player in football. Like, he never would. I mean, I don't think he made $30 million until he went to Tampa. Maybe his last year in New England. I'd have to look that up on Spotrac. But I think his last couple of years were the only time he made $30 million a year.
Right. Before
that, he was a middle of the road paid quarterback. Now, I'm not saying he played the game just so he could make the money, because clearly his net worth is exceptionally high given all of the off-field stuff, including like the Audemars Piguet deals that he have and all these high-end brands that used him. But think about Pat Mahomes. 3 years ago, right? 3 years ago, he signed a $500 million deal.
Yeah.
Early. So it's like,
do you think that's more of a reason why he may not play 21 years?
Well, I mean, maybe. I mean, at some point, if you're beat up, you're going to. By the way, that deal's going to get ripped up and redone.
Of course.
He's technically underpaid.
Right, yeah.
And so at some point, he's going to probably make like $700 million.
There was a contract in old WCW, where I forget what was the name of it, Tommy, where Kevin Nash would get more money than anybody else, no matter what.
It's called a favored nations.
A favored nation.
Him and Scott Hall had that.
Okay, so
that means everybody gets the same.
Well, no, it means as soon as someone gets paid more than you,
he gets it.
Okay,
right.
Patrick Mahomes.
You're right,
will
Tommy.
always be underpaid unless he has a favored nations clause in his contract because he's the best there is. That's why.
Yeah.
If anyone is making more money than Patrick Mahomes is underpaid.
Yeah.
That's the way I view it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means later in his career. And quite frankly, I don't think this is as simple as, well, Mahomes has to win 8 championships. If he gets to 8, he's the greatest of all time. He could win 6 and still be the greatest of all time. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to pass Tom Brady.
Especially if he does 6 in, 9 years.
Right. And then says, I'm done. And then says, well, why do I have to keep doing this? So I don't know if he's going to match Tom in terms of the longevity of it. But as of right now, I actually don't even really see the other side. Mahomes is better. He just is. And that's why when I sit there next Sunday, I'm going to root passionately for him because I want him to pass Tom Brady. I want him to pass him 5 times over. And what I love is the idea that Tom has to sit there and call it live on TV.
Nothing he can do about it.
And there's nothing he could do about it. We'll get your calls coming up. We'll also keep you very much posted on the Boomer clock that is set up right behind us. There is a clock around the neck of Boomer Esiason.
Boomer Esiason!
He told us Pete Alonso is re-signing today. All right? So that clock is ticking. And if at 5 o'clock Pete's not a Met, the L replaces the clock. And speaking of Pete Alonso, the New York Mets have been attached to trading for top-line starting pitchers, specifically Dylan Cease and Michael King. Coming up, I'll tell you why, if the Mets make a trade like that, they 1,000% better sign Pete Alonso. And if they don't, it wouldn't make any sense. We'll explain it coming up. We'll mix in your Super Bowl calls. We'll hit you with everything over the course of the next 4.5 hours.